Good afternoon, everybody. It's a Thursday, which means we have our final full out chat for the week. I am your host, Steve Solberg. Welcome, as we are going to be talking to Phil O'Neill, the director of Spirit Squads at the University of Oklahoma. Phil's a great guy. I've heard him speak many times, an excellent speaker, has done a lot of things in terms for Varsity University, obviously the University of Oklahoma, things like that. So very excited to talk to Phil, hear his story, hear his background. It's going to be an awesome one. So before we can go full out, we need some music. So let's do it one more time. Let's go full out. Are you ready? Full out chats. Do you know what time it is? We got the flow, we got the right, we got the vision, you lose the sight. We will never stop. What? We got the drums, yeah. What time is it? Full out. We're live in 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, we have music. We are going full out. Let me find Phil. Again, Phil O'Neill. There he is. That was easy. Phil, how are you?
Hey, Steve. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great, man. Thank you. Do you hear me okay? Can you hear me, see me?
I can hear you. I'm just adjusting my camera here just a little bit.
Problem. Yeah, you sound good too. You look great. Everything's awesome. First of all, thank you again for doing this. I super excited to hear you. I mean, we've met many times. I was kind of saying you're an excellent speaker. You do a great job with Varsity University. You've given a lot of great different talks and things like that. I've really enjoyed your talks and what you've presented to coaches and things like that. And but the thing is, like a lot of these people, I just don't really know much about you and your background and stuff. So I'm just excited to hear your story and how you got into everything and kind of just go from there. So like I asked everybody, just start from the beginning. Tell us about your background and where did you grow up and other sports you played, and then eventually how did you get in this crazy thing called cheerleading?
So I grew up on Long Island in a town called Massapequa Park, New York, which is South Shore, right off the Atlantic Ocean. My town is known for the Baldwin family, so Alex, Stephen, Billy Baldwin, Jerry Seinfeld, and a burger joint called All American, and the movie Born on the 4th of July was filmed there. So I grew up with mom, single mom, and definitely got my work ethic and communication style from her. And went to a high school called Chaminade High School, which is in Mineola. Wrestled there, played baseball and swam for my town, and then went on to Villanova, where I got involved in the student life side of things in my first couple of years. So I was involved with our campus activities team and got involved with my fraternity while I was there as well. But, something that has always been missing is somebody who had always been part of a team growing up. That's a great picture. This is my mom, my brother, and me holding a baseball with a great pair of 70s pants. So
we talked about earlier, those all three of you, your pants are killer. Those things would bring big money on the vintage market right now for sure. And I mean, growing up in New York, I'm sure has shaped you into kind of the person you are today.
Yeah, for sure. And my brother's collar, would draw attention to my brother's collar, which is you could probably land a plane on that collar. So yeah, I got to Villanova University, which is a medium-sized Catholic institution right outside of Philadelphia. I landed, walking across campus one day, there was a sign for mascot and cheerleading tryouts. And I was like, mascotting? I think I could do that. And so I went to lunch, I went to dinner, and then I walked back and actually tore the sign down so nobody else could see it. And went the following day to, first day of mascot tryouts, and you know how that goes. Well, if you want to be a mascot, you should give this a try. And so our coach, Charlie at the time, challenged me, and so got into stunting and tumbling, fell in love with it, and here we are 25 years later, having a conversation about how it all started. So, yeah, no, it all started with just making a decision to try something new in my junior year. So this is my partner, Christy Greco, and Christy is probably, when I think back about my college years, probably somebody who is one of the most responsible people for my development. Like, I just remember one day sitting in the library. We had been partners for about a year at this point, and she was like, "I just want to be better. We need to work harder." And from that point on, it was, nothing was the same. That was a spark to, the next 3 or 4 years of just working so hard to improve. But yeah, no, and she's the chief of staff for a member of Congress from, I believe, Washington State at the moment. It's had a great career, but that's Christy Greco, one of my favorite people in the world. So
how many years did you cheer at Villanova?
So I actually cheered for 5 years. It was my last 3 years of undergrad, and then the 2 years that I was there for graduate school. So I did an undergrad in political science and communications, and I have a master's degree in business from Villanova. So, yeah.
And at Villanova, obviously Villanova is really well known for their basketball. They have a great basketball program there. I mean, talk about the overall your game day experience at Villanova, a private school, right? Am I right?
Right.
Private school, outside of Philly. Obviously, going to have kind of a different vibe. Kind of talk about the game day experience that you had there.
So I think when you talk about Philly and you talk about basketball, you talk about the Big Five, which is, Villanova, LaSalle, Temple, St. Joe's, and the University of Pennsylvania. They're all schools in and around Philadelphia. And so the rivalries, even though it's a smaller realm than, say, college football, are just as passionate and just as, people are just as into it. And so I, coming up through the cheerleading ranks, some of my biggest memories are cheering at Temple, and then going for cheesesteaks afterwards, at Pat's Cheesesteaks in Philly. So I'm a whiz-wit kind of guy. So that was, the environment was a little, I would say, smaller, tighter, more passionate, like as passionate, but the environment, you're just more on top of everybody. So this is the 4th year at Nationals right here. And actually, the funniest part about this picture, there's a guy named Brandon Ween in the middle of this picture that's so tall that he cuts off the D in studios. And so it says, forever, everybody in this picture said Studios. So so we just had everybody's catching up with Zoom and all of the online technology, communication. This group of people from this time frame, we just had a happy hour on Friday night, and it was just, some of us hadn't spoken to each other in 20 years. And so it was really great to catch up.
No, actually, we did the same thing. I mean, me and my college roommates, we keep in touch, but we've never, ever like video chatted with each other, and stuff and now we're actually doing it weekly. No, I mean, I was actually talking to my assistant, Nicole, about, you got to take lemons in a lemonade, and the technology we have, I should have been using this stuff earlier in terms of keeping in touch with my team and doing stuff virtually and stuff like that. And we'll talk about that later, obviously, with you at Oklahoma, and you just got done with, I believe you said roughneck tryouts and stuff.
Right. Last night, so part of our Spirit program here at the University of Oklahoma has about 150 athletes and coaches. So involved in 6 different groups. So we have a co-ed team, an all-girl cheer team. We have a dance team. We have mascots. So we have 3 separate mascot characters. And then we have something that's kind of unique to OU. We have an all-male and an all-female spirit group called the Roughnecks and the Little Sis. And they're most known for caring for our Sooner Schooner and shooting our ceremonial shotguns on game days. And so they're, kind of a hybrid organization, a little bit like a team, a little bit like a student organization. So we had their elections last night, which we did virtually, right? And so we had people all over the country, and we were holding their elections last night, which went just so well. So just so proud of those guys.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely want to talk about that later. I mean, the Oklahoma Spirit program is huge, as you can see in this picture. It's just a huge one. So, so you're at Villanova. You're finishing up. Like you said, you got your undergrad in political science, and then you started your master's program. What did you study for your master's program while you were there?
I have an MBA in management, which I think sometimes we do things in life, and we figure out what we don't want to do, right? So, right. So I finished up, and I think in my
Well, let's see here. I think Phil might be having some connection issues. There we go.
phone's ringing. Yep.
No, it's okay. Yep.
Can you hear?
And so you were saying,
Can you
yep,
hear me?
you're
Yeah.
good. So you were
Uh,
saying you're figuring out what you don't want to do in life. Oh, did we lose Phil again? We might have lost him again. That's all right. This is what you deal with live technology, live broadcast. Not a big deal. I think maybe he's getting a phone call, but again, we're here with Phil O'Neill.
sorry.
No
Sorry.
worries. No, it's just
Yeah.
telling people like this
Yeah.
is technology.
Yeah.
This is live
Yeah.
broadcast. But here with Phil O'Neill from University of Oklahoma, and
Mhm.
later in the show we'll do a Q&A with Phil. So if you do have any questions for Phil about him, about the University of Oklahoma, about whatever, at the bottom of the screen you're going to see a question mark that looks like a deck of cards. Tap on that, send us some questions, and Phil will be happy to answer them later. So again, we were talking about you're getting your master's degree
Yeah.
at Villanova and
Right.
figuring out what you don't want
Right.
to do.
And so I think, what defined me in undergrad and graduate school was not necessarily academics, although I did all right, but this groups that I was involved in. So the student organizations that I was involved in. So coming at the tail end of graduate school, I knew I was not going to work in corporate America, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to teach. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think professionally, I found out something very quickly, that I was not a very good classroom teacher. Um, I taught in the school district of Philadelphia at Strawberry Mansion High School, and that was just not something that like I wanted to teach, but academics and in the classroom was not where I was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like day in and day out. I'm sure you can attest. Like like the amount of growth that I experienced and still continue to experience through my involvement. With cheerleading and with the Spirit program here at the University of Oklahoma has really shaped me into who I am. And so paying that forward, I'm sure you can identify with this as the opportunity to provide students with the ability to learn and to grow. And
Mm-hmm.
so, so I wanted to help students learn and grow, but the classroom setting definitely wasn't for me. So,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting. The funny part about that is that I was teaching freshman algebra, and the only class that I ever failed in high school or at any point was first semester freshman year algebra in high school. And there I am. My first job out of college was teaching algebra. So maybe that had something to do with the fact that I wasn't so good at it. But I found other things that I enjoy.
So how long were you doing being a teacher?
I only taught for 1 year.
Okay.
I also had a political science degree, so I went to work in the president's office at Drexel University as in the Office of Government and Community Relations. I was there for about a year and a half, and then I had an opportunity to go back to Villanova to become assistant director of student development for fraternity and sorority life. So
Okay.
so I had the next 10 years on and off. I was working in student life at the same time coaching cheerleading on the side,
Mm-hmm.
and also part-time owner in a cheer gym. So
Mm-hmm.
so I was a busy, that those mid-20s to early 30s were pretty busy.
So again, we're here with Phil O'Neill, University of Oklahoma, Director of Spirit Squads. If you have any questions for Phil or about his program, feel free to send a question below. Just tap on the question mark at the bottom, and I'm happy to answer and get those questions out to him later. And I did see a comment. Is it your birthday today?
If you ask the mascots in our program, every day is my birthday.
I love it. Those mascots. Okay, it's not, but it's funny.
It is.
I love it.
So, which then has now spilled over to the co-ed team.
It's blowing up right now. Everybody's wishing you a happy birthday. I love it.
That's really funny. Actually, the last year, the entire student section, so the co-ed team started singing happy birthday, and then but the first like 15 or 20 rows of the student section were singing happy birthday to me. So
oh, that's great.
Right, and they wish me happy birthday every day except on my actual birthday, so which is pretty funny. So
oh, those mascots.
right, and the mascots, I think are, and just a moment to plug our mascots.
Yeah,
I think they do such an amazing job, and in our program, they're definitely a binding force, and they bring people together, and they give everybody a sense of community. And there's no they're as, people hear the term mascot and they think, they may conjure up any number of images, but they are as passionate and as caring and as into it as any athlete is about their sport,
100%.
and that's it, right. So, so proud, to work with those guys. And if you've ever ran a mascot meeting, it's something straight out of Mad Magazine, right? So,
mascot
right.
meetings, mascot tryouts, all of
right,
it. Yes.
right. So,
yes.
right, a meeting that would in any other group setting take 15 minutes can go an hour and a half. So, anyhow, but thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Happy birthday to you too.
Again, we're here with Phil O'Neill at University of Oklahoma. If you have any questions for Phil, just tap on the question mark below, and we'll be happy to get that to him later. So you said that you were the assistant director of Greek life, correct? In Villanova now. Were you in a fraternity when you were at Villanova?
I was.
Okay.
When I say, I would think that I probably wouldn't have graduated from Villanova. I had a tough transition to college. And so it was difficult. And I think if it wasn't for the support that was provided to me, part of my fraternity, like I may not have graduated from there, so I struggled to find a sense of, like, Villanova's built on the notion of community. And so, but I struggled to find my nook and my sense of community. And that was really the first sense of community that I had when I was there. And because I stayed in school, I discovered, mascotting and therefore cheerleading, et cetera. So that opportunity, kind of rolled, that one decision really impacted the remaining, the rest of my life to actually get involved.
So while you are at Villanova, again, your full-time job is being the assistant director, correct? And then
correct.
Basically on the side, you actually start coaching your old team, the team that you cheered for at Villanova. So kind of talk about that transition going from there you go, Phil. This is a picture of exactly how I would envision Coach Phil. This is exactly what I would think.
This was taken it was cold out, and that's a great shot. Sums me up in a if you can't have fun, what are you doing? So.
I agree. Talk about now you're 3 years removed from cheerleading there, correct? As you start coaching there. So
actually, so I had been the assistant. So the gentleman if you can go back the slide, that was my senior night with Alan. My mentor is a gentleman. His guy's name is Alan Roach. So that's Alan and my mom right there. And so I went from being captain of the team to being on the team in graduate school to helping coach for 2 years, beyond graduate school. And then, so there was a few years there. I wasn't cheering, I was coaching. So,
So you pretty much went right from being an athlete to coaching or helping
coaching.
Out with
yes.
it.
Yeah.
Talk about that transition. I know there's a lot of people that do that. You're coaching people you used to, let's be honest here, used to party with and you were friends with, and now you're an authority figure. Kind of talk about that transition. That
transition is, people that we're on the team with and now are trying to give guidance to. There was only, a little bit of overlap there by the time that I actually took the head coaching role. And I think, it takes a lot of patience and a lot of willingness and open hearts on both sides. It's, you have to be willing to present yourself in a different way, and the team has to be ready to see you in a different way. But there are definitely, and for any young coaches out there who are transitioning, from being on team to coaching people that they may have been in school with, patience is important. I think it's, because there's always going to be, well, I remember that time that you were late, or I remember that time, that, any number of issues that might come up. So I think, it's important to, help navigate, hey, when those things are brought up and those lessons, those conflicts are brought up, it's address it and own it. That's, I think, that the most important thing is but this is different. No, hey, I made that mistake, but I wish I hadn't. Here's what I learned from it, trying to present things in that way. So, but yeah, it was rough. It was a rough go at first, for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Again, here with Phil O'Neill, Director of Spirit Squads, University of Oklahoma. We'll be doing a Q&A here in about 20 minutes. So if you have any questions for Phil or about the University of Oklahoma program, just feel free to send them at the question mark below. I'm sure he'd be happy to talk about that. And also, we'll get into a little bit later about tryouts and how tryouts and everything have been going for people, especially in the college world here. But so you're at Villanova, you are working with the Greek community and then also coaching on the side. How long were you at Villanova in that dual role?
I started at Villanova in 1992 and left in 2015. So
Okay.
I was there from, either as a student or as an employee. I had a total, I think, of 10 years as there was a little break. I was the assistant director for Greek Life for 2 years and then another 8 years following that. So
Okay.
it was 10 years altogether. So I took off some time in the middle and was really focusing on the gym. But as all-star gyms are, especially when you're working, in a place where the commercial real estate prices are so high, very hard to support, any full-time, salary. So there were about 3 years in the middle there where I was doing, I took off to try to dedicate the time to start the gym. So.
And talk about that. So, I mean, I didn't know that. So I'm glad we're learning about that. I didn't know that you were in the All-Star role for a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, right. So I've coaching wise, I've coached with, I've coached at the collegiate level. I've also, I've never been a head coach of a high school team, but I choreographed, and how choreographing can turn into, de facto coaching in some ways with, my really good friend, Lisa Garman. We coached together for 12 years, a high school team called Strathaven High School. And then not Garnet Valley, Strathaven High School and Garnet Valley High School. And but the All-Star realm was very interesting. I think, especially when you're a small gym, sometimes the cross-section of athletes and money and positions, and bringing the business model to what we do is definitely a challenge, right? And so in this picture are my two wonderful business partners, Lynn Mensack and Dee Kitzinger. The gym was open for 11 years and we had, a lot of success in that time frame. But definitely that cross section of, young athletes and money and, the customer model. So when you go to buy a car, you're like, we want a red car. And you're like, that's great, but I got a blue one for you. Somebody's like, well, I want to be a flyer. And if I can't be a flyer, then I'm going to go down the road and, I'll, pay somebody else for, the service that I'm looking for. So, and sometimes I feel like, the challenge in the All-Star world was, like in the collegiate and the scholastic level, sometimes imparting lessons and life lessons is a little bit easier in that realm than it was in the All-Star realm, but the biggest loss I felt when we actually closed the gym was the loss of family, because those families over 11 years really became, they became my extended family. And so, definitely, felt the loss of that sense of, community and that sense of belonging, when we did finally have to close our doors. So, but it was a great ride. We had a lot of success and made a lot of great people and a lot of great friends and traveled quite a bit. So
again, here with Phil O'Neill, Director of Spirit Squads, University of Oklahoma, and a quick shout out thank you to cheeranddancemusic.com for the intro music. I know people have enjoyed that, so thank you for that. So while at Villanova, I mean, just kind of talk about the experience of being a coach at your alma mater, being a coach at a Division 1A school, and kind of just the opportunities that present itself when you're in that role.
Right. I think one of the biggest challenges of being, from the same place that you did your undergraduate work at was also meeting Jay Leno.
Yes, I saw that. Yes, that's awesome.
So one of the biggest challenges is, there's not, when you get to see a diverse set of environments and you've traveled and you've been, they're like the inability to bring in fresh ideas. And so part of the rut in that transition was definitely, what can I do new? What can I do exciting? As, what can we build upon? Right. And so I think that happened a little slower than, in that transition, if I had been coming from someplace different. Right. So the ideas that I had would have been new, but my paradigm at that point, my entire cheerleading experience had been from one place. Right. But as I traveled more in that position and I got to see more of what was going on around the country, you know, it was definitely nice to be able to bring back things that I had seen and ideas, and the more coaches I interacted with. And I think that's the best part about what we do, Steve, is that sense of community. I know, like, when this all started to happen, you know, a few weeks, you know, a month and a half ago, like, the first thing we all did was start talking to each other. What are you guys doing? How's it going
Yep.
for you over there? How are you conducting tryouts? What are you doing about your clinics? You know, and so I think that, you know, the more that, you know, that the longer I was in it, the greater sense of community, the greater the number of places that I travel to, the ability to bring back fresh new ideas increased. But at first it was, I think the big challenge was, you know, having new ideas when my whole cheer world had been, you know, 19085 in Villanova, Pennsylvania. So for sure.
And so, again, we're here with Phil O'Neill. If you have any questions for Phil, in about 10, 15 minutes, we're going to start a Q&A. So just send them through the question mark at the bottom. Now, obviously, you know, you've been at Villanova for a while. It's your alma mater. You're a diehard. But then obviously an unbelievable opportunity opens up at the University of Oklahoma. You know, a very established program. At the time was an NCAA school, but it's Oklahoma. I mean, it's obviously Big 12. We're talking big time game day, and we're just talking about, you know, University of Oklahoma. Kind of talk about the process about you know, I mean, I'm quite sure you had to have been torn about leaving Villanova. I mean, there's so many, obviously, roots there, but obviously sometimes you just got to make a change in life. So kind of talk about that experience of going through and making a decision.
Right. In the summer of 2014, I attended a conference at the University of San Diego, where at the opening dinner, I sat next to a woman who had shared her story with me and just said, you know, my husband and I had been at this one university for the entirety of our career, and we were trying to make a decision about what the next step was. Were we going to be lifers, or were we going to try a new challenge? And that conversation resonated with me and stuck in my head for the next year. And I felt a couple of things. I felt like, one, I definitely wanted new challenges. There are a couple of life events that had happened. I felt like, you know, I definitely think it's new challenges. And while I still had a deep passion for working with students, I thought, you know, at that point, my days of coaching, you know, were, I had fulfilled everything that I had wanted to do about coaching a team day in and day out, that I wanted a new challenge and a new role, but that I still wanted to be working in higher ed and working day to day with students. And so, as I started to explore, you know, the opportunities that were out there, the opportunity at OU popped up. And, you know, I came from Villanova as a very mission-minded institution. It's an Augustinian university founded on the notion of community and unitas, veritas, and caritas. And as I started to research the OU athletic department, you know, our athletic department here is extremely mission-based. You know, they talk about the champions today and leaders tomorrow, which is, you know, using the experience to prepare athletes, and founded in Sooner Magic values, which is masterful, accountable, gracious, inclusive, and competitive. So for me, you know, the draw was obviously the amazing university, the amazing athletic tradition, the almost one of a kind spirit program that they had, but also this mission-minded, mission-driven environment where, you know, when you have a mission and you have a lighthouse and you know where you're headed day in and day out. So for me, really, that that mission of champions today and leaders tomorrow, and that the Sooner Magic values were, you know, what drew me here. And so when I stepped foot on campus and had a few conversations, it was, you know, something that not was only on paper, but people believed in, you know, not that you were achieving it every single day, but, you know, but it is an ideal to strive towards. So for me, that was the draw to come, you know, those, you know, the environment, the athletics, the tradition, you know, and then, you know, the mission driven atmosphere was something that really was, for me, was a draw.
Again, we're here with Phil O'Neill, Director of Spirit Squads at the University of Oklahoma. In about 10 minutes here, we're going to do a Q&A. So last chance to get any questions or comments to Phil about the University of Oklahoma program or anything. Just send it to the question mark at the bottom, and happy to make sure Phil gets those questions. So you make the transition from Philadelphia to Norman, Oklahoma. Talk about kind of that move. I mean, it sounds like you pretty much lived on the East Coast your whole life, and now you're going to Oklahoma, which I'm quite sure it's its own culture, its own place. Kind of talk about that
Right.
that move and that transition for you that first year.
Right. Right. So I think, when I think about that first year, I think, there are a couple of things. So, as we were going back and forth last night, and one of the things that you said, you mentioned was like, hey, we'll talk about like, what are some of your challenges? Like what are some of the biggest, challenges that you've had? And I
Mm-hmm.
think probably a time where like the transition here happened so fast that I don't really think I prepped myself properly for the cultural differences, not only in terms of geographic region, but
Mm-hmm.
from university to university, athletic department, and athletes to athletes. And
Mm-hmm.
so, for sure, it was something that I knew it would be different, but I don't know that I properly, like I wish if I had to do it over again, I probably would take steps to prep for the cultural differences. I'm a very direct, for sure, uh, you
Mm-hmm.
know, northerner, right? And so, so considering how I was saying things and communicating to, cheerleaders is different than communicating to dancers, as is a completely different culture, is different to
Mm-hmm.
communicating mascots. And so again, it was definitely changing. It's something I wish I frankly had handled a lot better than I did at the time. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely a growth opportunity for me. But one of the most interesting things that happened at the end of 2014 or 2015, 2016 season was Villanova played OU in the Final Four. And
Yeah.
so,
Uh-huh.
right. And so that was a beautifully, beautifully ironic moment. And so, I don't know if irony is the right word, but there was some part of that was just so beautiful. And so, big fan of Villanova basketball, and just as big a fan of Coach Kruger here at the University of Oklahoma, and Coach Cole here at the University of Oklahoma, who are, just have, I'm a big college hoops fan. So,
Mm-hmm.
coming to a place where, hoops was a big deal. I loved it. And so being able to be a part of that was just surreal. It was really neat. So,
And
um,
it was the year Villanova won the national championship. Is that correct?
yeah, 2016. Yeah,
Yep.
right, right.
I remember, Phil. I mean, I think you're a great guy, and I just remember being like, the year Phil
Yeah.
left is, of
Uh-huh.
course, the year they win it. And I just like, oh my goodness. I'm
Right,
like, I know he's happy. I'm just like, oh my goodness. I was like,
right,
gosh. And then I remember, yeah, Oklahoma played Villanova. I was like, my gosh, he's got to be torn. He
right.
just has to be
Yeah.
torn.
So I'm gonna steal a line from Fran Hanlon, who's the basketball coach at Lafayette University, who's also a Villanova alum, who just says, I'm a Villanova fan every day of the year except for one.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so I think I always knew that there was a possibility, but I didn't know it was going to be that quick.
Yeah.
I think one of the funniest things that happened, after the game, we went back to the locker room, we're getting changed to get on the bus. And one of my former athletes from Villanova walked up to me and just said, gave me a hug and just said, sorry, not sorry. So I felt like that was, in a nutshell. It was also very beautiful in and of itself. So, um,
So we're now at Oklahoma.
mhm.
You're in there. Kind of talk about what were some of the first couple challenges or kind of things that you knew that you wanted to really implement when you got to the University of Oklahoma. I mean, I've talked to a lot of college coaches, and including myself. This is my 10th year at Purdue, and obviously every coach comes in with ideas and things they want to implement or change. But kind of talk about what were some things that you knew you wanted to kind of put your stamp on at Oklahoma.
Right. I think, we're totally blessed with, just an outstanding coaching staff in Miranda Noel, who's
Mm-hmm.
our cheer coach, and Taylor Burgett, who's our dance coach. At the time, I think one of the things that you had this incredible program. And the first thing I wanted to do was take it and align it with the values of the athletic department. And not that it wasn't being run that way, but just, trying to take those values, those masterful, accountable, gracious, inclusive, and competitive, and really, align our program with that. So, towards the end of the first year, we developed a rubric through which we were selecting through tryouts, whether it was dance, mascot, roughnecks, little sis, that was founded in those values, that we awarded scholarships according to those values. And then our end of the year awards, were founded in those values as well. And so I think the second thing was like trying to be a little bit more inclusive in terms of sharing the opportunities that our program afforded, whereas, most members of the program had to wait till they were juniors to travel. We tried to include like freshmen, and we wanted to reduce turnover. We wanted people to feel included. And so if you have to wait till your third year to cheer a game someplace, it might not be, trying to create incentives and feelings and opportunities for people that gave them a reason to stick around. And so, so instead of offering scholarships to a few, we tried to offer scholarships to a little bit to everybody. We tried to spread out the travel opportunities, even our, Nike contract and our Nike allotment. Some groups in the program were getting a little bit more than others. So we tried to level that out and give something to everybody. And so I think that those are, being a little bit more inclusive and really aligning our values with the athletic department, were probably the two biggest steps. So
I'm quite sure that ruffled some feathers, Phil.
For sure. Change is hard, and for sure. But I do, I was blessed with, at that point, two like incredible coaches who were bought into the vision. And for sure, when you're taking from somebody and redistributing to somebody else, but when you favor one group over another group, those groups are always going to be at odds. And so I feel at the moment we've achieved, it took us a little bit of time, but after a year or two of doing things a certain way, the people coming into the program didn't know a different way. And so but our athletes, I would say, I remember sitting here with some of our senior cheer members that year and said like, hey, this is difficult, but I know that this is the right way to go. So I would say, it was difficult for a few, but most really did buy into the new way of doing things. And so as a program, we started to thrive, and the groups were no longer at odds with each other. They were just mad at me, which was fine, so, right. Which is, I think, is the way that it should be. If you watch I identified with like a little bit in the movie Miracle with Herb Brooks, who was like, hey, if they're just mad at you, then they're not mad at each other, and which is, obviously what you're going for. So, but I all credit to our coaches and our athletes for really embracing that, and for some giving back their opportunities so others might have an opportunity for sure.
So I mean, that's a great segue when you started talking about over time you starting to see more success and things like that, and then. University of Oklahoma had always gone to college nationals and always been there, had made finals, had really done well, but really had not got over the hump in terms of like winning. And then you guys did it. Your all-girl program goes on and wins a national championship and is now a consistent top 2, top 3 contender at UCA Nationals. Your co-ed program does excellent, consistently makes finals. It's just an overall really good program. But talk about specifically for right now, just kind of getting over that championship hump and actually being able to accomplish that goal.
Yeah, I attribute that entirely to Miranda, our cheer coach, and the athletes in the program. 100% Miranda for building a culture within our cheer program that, is just, it took some time, it took some challenging, there were some growing pains for sure. But building a vision and being mission minded and developmental. So, what makes Miranda unbeatable is not only the technical aspect, but her commitment to her athletes and her commitment to their growth. And so, but then on the other side of that, you have to be willing as an athlete. You have to be willing and open to that, right? And so, I just, she had a vision, Miranda had a vision, and, and in terms of not only achieving well, athletically, but what she was envisioning for the program, from a developmental standpoint. And so, the focus is never winning, the focus is process, and the focus, is development and growth and improvement. And so, and maxing out. And if that's where it lands you, then that's great. But, at that point when we had won, I don't know that I'd ever heard the word win, which is, it's, nice. But so, but I think the surprise, and like there was a little bit of surprise at that point, and when in that first, in that first year, and so, but I attribute that, entirely to Miranda's vision, Miranda's hard work, her dedication not only to the program and the university, but most importantly to our athletes and to their willingness to really work hard and sacrifice with each other to, for the good of the team. So there's a lot of talent that, very talented dance and very talented cheer teams. And so, it's the attitude of we is greater than me is something that, takes some time to build. But I really think, in that time frame that those groups were really starting to buy into that the team over the individual, and it paid off for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a phenomenal routine. Again, I mean, you guys had an excellent routine this year at Nationals. Also, congratulations on that. Before we get into the Q&A, kind of let's just every college coach I've kind of talked to is, obviously want to give you an opportunity to talk about your program. But obviously this year is not normal. Obviously, this year has been very different for all of us with the COVID situation and things like that. If you don't mind, just kind of, I'm quite sure there's some people watching. Actually, I know there are some people right now watching that are probably interested in, like, what's Oklahoma doing in terms of tryouts? What have you guys been doing? And kind of what is the, at least from what because literally things change by the hour, it seems like. Kind of what is your goal and in terms of that process?
Right. So the number one part of, the biggest part of our mission is providing athletes with the opportunity to become the best version of themselves and still and growth. And so, from the outset, when this happened, we wanted to find a way to continue to support them in every capacity, and really have there be no loss in the opportunities that we would provide them. So just like, most other schools at this point, we've moved into, a virtual tryout process, not only for cheer, but for dance. And as you said earlier, we talked about the Roughnecks and the Little Sis doing their elections, but also trying to partner them with not the resources that they would have if they were here. So, first and foremost, we made sure that there was a low threshold. That they knew that we were a resource for them in terms of if they needed mental health resources, because this is, not only straightening us as a program, but straightening us as an individuals. And, as like sometimes, home isn't always the safest space, for some of our athletes. And so letting them know that we were a resource for them and trying to partner them with the mental health resources that they might need. Similarly, we let them know about the opportunities that the university, had, communication is over the top. They're getting emails from their professors and from the university and from the athletic department. So really trying to, pare down the things like the resources that might be most impactful to them. And so the university has a beautiful program called Sooners Helping Sooners that provides grants to the to students who are in need. We had several students who, were able, because they were they're losing their jobs and their income, that they were able to obtain grants. Partnering them also, like our seniors who never got a chance to come back and had no their closure. And so we did, one of the things that we did was a resume builder and an interview skills, development session with our, career services office to try to help bridge that gap where they would have had, access to these programs if they were here, but because they were no longer here, because they were no longer here, we tried to bring it to them. So, and workouts. And so obviously, every coach is chomping at the bit to get back in with their teams. And so we have an amazing trainer, Tracy Winters, who is from Hype Fitness here in Norman. And she trains on a weekly basis our POM team. And so we developed online Zoom training sessions with our co-ed, our all-girl, and our POM team, and then opened it up to the other parts of the program as well. So everybody could work out up to, 3 times per week, which was, we're wondering how it was going to work out, and it's actually worked out tremendously. So good. It's worked out really well. So, really the big challenge was trying to continue to support our athletes the way we would if they were here. And like you said earlier, I completely identify with, oh my, how come we weren't doing this sooner? You know, sometimes like if I like trying to find a time in the middle of the year to get 150 people together for a meeting or for a training session, I now know how we're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So every January, when I'm feeling like there are a few things that need to be communicated, or there's a training session that the university wants us to have with our athletes, I now know how we're going to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
we've just, and maybe we found ways to make everybody's life, as college students, they're trying to balance the academic, the employment, then their commitment to our program. And so, rather than making our mascots spend an hour traveling to and from campus, we can do that every other week virtually and give them back some time. So,
Yep.
we are discovering new ways. Like if there is, something positive that is coming out of this current situation, it is finding new ways to, to serve our athletes and to serve
Mm-hmm.
our programs for sure.
No, 100%. Yes. I mean, I was actually talking to my assistant about how we're going to start doing virtual learning in terms of like getting the freshmen to learn the fight song, to learn our band
Mm-hmm.
cadences and stuff. And then we're just like, why haven't we been doing this already? Like, why did we always
Mm-hmm.
wait till our first practice week and to start like
Mm-hmm.
teaching this stuff? We could have been teaching
Mm-hmm.
them via video
Right.
way earlier. And so, yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. So
Oh yeah.
that sound effect, Phil, that means it's Q&A time, baby.
Okay.
It's
Sounds
Q&A
good.
time. So let's get some questions here. This is from Ava.
Mm-hmm.
Do you coach pom and cheer? I mean, so are you actively coaching, or I guess, specifically, what is your contact with the teams that you serve?
Right, for sure. So no, actually, I don't coach any one of our teams individually. I think my role is to support our athletes and coaches. I do the traveling with the program. So anytime we travel for football, basketball, et cetera, that falls under my purview. So I do most of the traveling, and that's really the chance that I get to really know one of the best opportunities for me to get to know our athletes is when we do travel. And I'm a huge, if you were to ask me over the years, like, hey, what are the things that you remember? I remember the places I've been, the people I was with, and where we ate, because I think breaking bread has always been a huge part of like, the experience and the sense of building the sense of community. So thinking back about the last couple months, I very miss not traveling in March with our, our spirit squads. It's a lost opportunity to interact and to spend some time with our athletes. And so, so Ava, no, I don't coach any of our teams directly. I'm more like, when you think of sports, maybe like a general manager who, works with all of the coaches, and with all of the athletes, but I don't coach any of the teams directly.
All right. This is, I'm guessing, one of your athletes. What are your thoughts on the males growing mullets for this year?
Yeah. Going with, the Tiger King motif, which actually the Wynnewood Zoo is just about 25 or 30 minutes south of the university. I think that's a hard no. I also think that if you are on our cheer team, you probably will have to check with your coach on that, who I also think would probably have some strong opinions in that matter. But no, that's a hard no.
That's a hard no. Sorry.
That's a hard no.
Sorry. Another question from Ava, but it is a good question that I'm quite sure a lot of people are wondering. What skills are you looking for? What skill?
Right.
She's specifically all girl, but what skills are you looking for
Right.
cheerleading at Oklahoma?
Right. I think we are, one of the things that we did a few years back was take a look at our tryout process. And we made some changes to try to make it a little bit more inclusive and accessible, right? So the old model was you used to have to come to a clinic and get invited to tryouts. And that was both on the cheer and the pom side. And one of the things that we did was we did away with that. And we just said, hey, if you want to attend tryouts, we're open to everybody. The second thing that we did was try to really take a comprehensive look at our athletes. Instead of just, taking skills, like we've also built in a letter of recommendation, a resume, a personal statement, and an interview. So we're not just interested in the athlete, but we're also interested in the person. And so the center of all of that is those Sooner Magic values. So we're looking for people who are accountable. We're looking for people who are gracious, people who are inclusive. And so we're looking for that demonstration in those parts, like those values to be demonstrated in that part of the trial process. I think in terms of specific skills, I think the most appropriate thing for me to do would be to direct you to our coach. and they could probably answer those questions. But I think across the program, for cheer, standing talk is absolutely a requirement. But I don't think that there's any one skill that precludes. I think most of our all-girl athletes have some form of a full. But that's not everybody. That's not a way. That's not to say that I don't think that there's one skill that, you would find that every single member of our program has. So, but if you have some specific questions, I really think that the best thing I could do is partner you with Miranda and or Taylor if it's a dance question, or KJ if it's a mascot question, and help you, and allow those coaches to really navigate that, that answer for themselves, which I think is really the most appropriate thing. So.
I see a couple of questions here that through the comment section. This is from O. Keegs asked, where's the best place to eat, Norman? What is your favorite place to eat, Norman?
That's Keegan Hubbard, who is the head coach or the cheer coach out at Grand Canyon University, GCU. They have a tremendous program there.
Yep.
My favorite place in Norman would have to be the Garage, which is an outstanding burger place.
Okay.
You can get a burger there called the Nutty Rooster, which is kind of has an Asian peanut theme to it. Also comes with a thin layer of peanut butter. And so the Nutty Rooster is my favorite Norman meal for sure. Also Casa O'Neill lately, where I've started cooking some of my mom's recipes. One of the things that I've done to kind of stay sane during, social distancing time was make my mom's sauce and my mom's lasagna. So, but I would definitely have, and then I think my favorite place is Penny Hill. It's a heavily themed OU, OU restaurant. And so I would say Penny Hill and the Garage are my two favorite places in Norman.
Ryan Martin O'Connor says, let them grow the mullets. Let them grow the mullets is what she says.
We're going to go.
Probably still a hard no.
Right.
I guess Ryan, at Western, if you want to let your guys grow mullets, you go right ahead, girl.
Right. I think, to be 100, because I want to make sure that this is like, we, just like you at Step Foot in a job interview, we expect you to be professional. All right. And so, as long as your haircut is neat and presentable and you're comfortable with it, as far as a straight up mullet, I'm going to have to, empower the coaches to have that conversation with their athletes. But, we do try to work with that we don't have one set standard for everybody. We try to work with everybody and what they're comfortable with, as long as it's professional, So I think, and safe, obviously hair is a factor in cheerleading and safety, et cetera. So we want you to be professional and safe. So
this is from Molly 3 Rose. How you from the picture here, the whole program as a whole is huge. It's
right.
Huge. Just how many people are typically on each team within the program?
So we have at the last count, we had 100 in the entire program. We had about 150 people from 14 different states.
Oh wow.
Right. And so last year that group did, over the last couple of years, that group did anywhere from 2,100 to 2,700 hours of community engagement. We do about 108 games a year. The program has a 3.26 GPA, and last semester 26 students had a 4.0.
That's awesome.
So we are extremely busy, but OU recruits high achieving students. And so the culture here is one of not only athletic, but also of academic excellence. Typically, like the teams vary in size from year to year. Our dance team has gone from 18 to 25, anywhere in that range. All girl has gone from 30 anywhere up to 36. Co-ed has been anywhere from 26 to 32. Our roughneck program has gone from anywhere from 18 to 24, and the Little Sis program has been anywhere from 5 to 15 this year, and the mascots have gone anywhere from 8 to 12. So It really depends on whatever the needs are for the year. I don't think that we ever go into a tryout or a selection process with an exact number in mind. We take a look and we consider everybody comprehensively. And whether it be for Roughnecks, Little Sis, mascots, or cheer or dance, we try to take a look at the whole person and then try to see what the needs are going into that year. So there's that hopefully answers your question. Giving you the ranges of what it's been over the last 5 years. But we don't go into any process with a set number like this is exactly what we want. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, we've got about 5 more minutes here.
Okay.
I learned very quickly, Instagram Live cuts you off right at an hour. You just cut.
Right. I did not know that.
Yes. So
Okay.
just real quick, a couple more. Just from Paige, she just wants to let you know that OU All Girls Fire. Yes, they were. They are a great program,
right.
just so you know. And real quick, a good one from Abby, which is pretty general, but I'm sure tough to answer. What's your favorite part about OU? What is some things that have just jumped out at you that you absolutely love about OU?
The passion of our fans, for sure. It's, the fans, the mission-minded aspect of our athletic department, and frankly, the athletes in our program who are, for me, I feel like I just love and I'm, passionate about working with students, and we have, just the most amazing athletes anywhere, who are as talented inside of our program as they are outside of our program, and who are so willing to sacrifice of themselves for the betterment of the group. And so I would say, yeah, our fans are amazing. The mission of not only the university, but our athletic department and the athletes in our program are definitely three of my, favorite things for sure.
One last question.
Mm-hmm.
Can we sing Happy Birthday to Phil?
No. No.
I'm sorry.
And the best part about this, Steve, is that they can't do it anyway.
Yeah.
Right. They can't do it anyway. So, no, you can't sing Happy Birthday to me. But
my gosh, I love it.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I think, Steve, I want to say to you, thanks for doing this. I think our industry has needed a really good podcast or opportunity to exchange ideas, and so I'm grateful and appreciative of you inviting me on, and for the opportunity, and what I look forward to learning from all of the other members of the spirit industry that you have on in the future. So
I appreciate that, man. No,
you're
welcome. No, I've been telling you, this has been so much fun. I don't know if you've been able to catch up on our Coaches Corner episodes, which we do on YouTube. But it's just, a bunch of coaches chit-chatting about current stuff. We talked about, obviously, the new divisions at UCA and obviously the new rules that came out, things like that. I mean, is that something you'd love to join us sometime on? We'd love to have you.
Sure.
Awesome.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I think, if you ever move into dance or, Miranda, our cheer coach, or tell our dance coach, they would be fantastic for you to have on as well. So,
I've already had the Minnesota dance coach as one of the guests on here, but I've already talked to actually Ray at Ohio State. We're going to do a mascot one. I want to do a dance one.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure. Right.
It's spirit overall. Yes.
Our mascot coach, KJ, who is just, still 5 years removed, still a mascot. Right. Is also fantastic. So yeah, I think I'd love the opportunity. I think we'd all love the opportunity. So thanks for offering it. Sure.
Anything we can learn from different perspectives within the industry, especially
100%.
At a great program like Oklahoma, I would absolutely love it. So again, Phil O'Neill, Director of Spirit Squads at the University of Oklahoma. Thanks again, my friend. I appreciate it. And hopefully once this whole COVID thing settles down, our paths will cross soon.
Once again, sounds good. Thanks,
Thanks,
Steve.
Phil.
Have a great one. Take care.
You too, buddy.
Bye.
Wow, that was awesome. Phil O'Neill, Director of Spirit Squads at the University of Oklahoma. I knew he would be an awesome one. I knew he'd be a lot of fun. I just was super excited to hear his story, and just a great guy. Does it for the right reasons. You can just tell it from his heart and from what he had to say. So again, that is our week of Full Out Chats. Monday, I'll be back. And who do I have? I will be talking to Leroy McCullough. Yes, that Leroy McCullough, co-head coach, USA Cheer, former head coach, Oklahoma State University. Yes, on Monday, 1 o'clock Eastern here on Full Out Chats, I'll be talking and hearing the great stories from Leroy McCullough. It'll be a great one. You will not want to miss it. Again, thank you, everybody, for the overwhelming support. Once again, thank you, cheeranddancemusic.com, for the music. It's been awesome. You all have been great. Please tell your friends about it. Have a great weekend. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you on Monday.